Johnny, I have a good job, I have a great family, and I've got nothing to really complain about. Why do I still feel so empty? We often see emptiness as a problem to solve, but what if it's actually an invitation? I've seen this in every single client. Here's what I've come to learn over time. Maybe that emptiness isn't trying to tell you that something is wrong. Maybe that emptiness isn't trying to punish you. Maybe it's trying to redirect you. Because people spend decades chasing goals that don't actually belong to them. They're not actually their goals. They're not actually things they want. But when was the last time you ever stopped to reflect and ask yourself, whose version of success am I living? The first thing I want to say to you is, hello and welcome. I am Johnny Lawrence and I am coming to you on a hot and sweaty day here in the UK. So today I'm going to be answering a question from a chap named Ben, 42 years old, from Bristol. And Ben asks, Johnny, I have a good job, I have a great family, and I've got nothing to really complain about. So why do I still feel so empty? The first thing I want to say to you is that is a question, weirdly enough, I get asked a lot by men. It really is. And perhaps I'm not really sure why entirely that is a question that men seem to ask me more than women do. But I do get asked that a lot with men. That and how do you find the work-life balance? How do you show up for your family in every way that they need you, but also show up for work and provide for your family? That's very often another question that men talk about and ask and we explore. But I think this particular question is one of the most difficult areas to explore, mainly because I think it comes with this really high, intense concentration of guilt. Because you look around at your life and you think, I should be happy. And as I always say on this podcast, we listen out for that word should. Whenever we hear that word should, it's very, very likely that you're running somebody else's preferences, someone else's way of looking at life. I should means somebody else has told me that's what I should do. But I don't necessarily know whether I agree with it. But I'm still doing it because I respect that person, I love that person, I want to make that person happy, whichever. So should is a word to look out for. But we've spoken about that many times in this podcast. And I think it's this feeling of guilt that really does stop you from exploring this, because you're all fit and well. Everyone in your life is healthy, hopefully. You've got people that love you. You've got a roof over your head. And by this point, you've likely achieved things in your life that you once dreamed about having. And yet something feels missing. And then comes the guilt. And you start asking yourself really, really unhelpful questions like, what's wrong with me? Why can't I just be happy? Why can't I just be content? Why can't I just be grateful? But here's the thing, I don't necessarily think there's anything wrong with you. That's not what I think is going on here. But I do think perhaps you're asking the wrong questions. So through this episode, I want to make 3 quite big points, and then I want to finish with some sort of practical tools to see if I can help you out. I hope that's going to work for you, Ben, and I hope that you're excited that we're going to get to explore this for you on this podcast episode. If you're not excited, by the way, that's okay too. It's just I'm an excitable person who is absolutely sweating out in here. It's mental. So the first point I want to make is that achievement and fulfillment are not the same thing. Because I think from a young age that we are taught that life is a series of checklists. Get good grades, get the job, buy the house, find the relationship, earn more money, keep progressing. But see, the problem is achievement can only really give us moments of satisfaction, whereas fulfillment gives us a way of living our lives. One is an event, the other is an experience. But really, you can collect achievements throughout your whole life while slowly starving your soul. You see, our brains are amazing things. They're designed to adapt, and that's by and far a good thing. Otherwise, every situation in life would be terrifying all the time, right? But this can often mean something else. That promotion, that new house, the bigger salary, the holiday, the recognition. They can all create this temporary emotional high. But then, just like I said, your brain adjusts. And what once felt incredible, extraordinary, now just feels normal. And that's not failure. That's just called being human. And that's why very often chasing achievement feels like drinking salt water. The more you consume, the more thirsty you become. And this brings me on to my second point. Success answers one question, and purpose answers another. I have to think about it like this. Success asks you questions like, what have I done? Where purpose will ask you questions more like, who am I becoming? One is measured by outcomes, the other is measured by a feeling of alignment. Because you can be incredibly successful while becoming someone you don't actually recognize anymore. And think about how destabilizing that is as a feeling, which is probably a little bit of what you're going through right now, Ben, this destabilization, this feeling of everything around you, the ground underneath you, not being safe and stable. It could be really, really quite a scary feeling. It's one that, fortunately, unfortunately, however you want to view it, I've been through many, many times as my career progresses at what feels like quite a rapid pace sometimes. But here's what I've come to learn over time. Maybe that emptiness isn't trying to tell you that something is wrong. Maybe that emptiness isn't trying to punish you. Maybe it's trying to redirect you. And boy, that will feel uncomfortable. There's no doubt about it. And actually, whenever we experience discomfort, it's very understandable that we label it as something being wrong, when that's not always what it means. And we often see emptiness, understandably again, as a problem to solve. But what if it's actually an invitation? Think of it like an invitation and see how that changes the way that you look at it. Because what if this was an invitation to stop asking what's next and start asking what's meaningful? And I can see you probably rolling your eyes, Ben, going, oh, what's meaningful? Come on, man. I'm not going to ask myself that. But what if you did? What is meaningful in your life? What are the things that you do? What are the people, places and things in your life that you do and experience that mean the most to you? And what are the ones that you barely remember doing? The ones that you dread doing? The ones that you try and put off, the ones that you, when you see a text message come up from that person or about that situation or in that group, you start thinking, oh, what are those things? Because all of that is a very different way of questioning the same thing. Which brings me on to my last point. We often inherit someone else's definition of success. In all the time I've been coaching, I'm not sure I think I can confidently say I've seen this in every single client. Every single one. And I've seen it within myself and the people that surround me, friends, family, all of it. I've seen it. I see it so often that it's actually, again, part of being human, I think. Because people spend years, decades, chasing goals that don't actually belong to them. They're not actually their goals. They're not actually things they want. Maybe your parents valued achievement. Maybe society taught you that success looked a certain kind of way. Or maybe social media has been quietly convincing you that getting more, chasing more, having more is always better. But when was the last time you ever stopped, paused, just taken a moment to reflect and ask yourself, whose version of success am I living? Big question, what's the answer? Because it's entirely possible to arrive exactly where everybody told you to go and then realize you never actually wanted to be there in the first place. And cue the eye roll, cue the cringe. This is exactly why I talk so much about our core values. Because they're the best. Goals are great. They tell you where you want to go. But it's the values. It's the values that tell you why you want to go there in the first place. And that's how you can be sure that you're traveling on a path that you want to be on and not one that you think you should be on. Because here's the thing about goals, they eventually finish. But values, they're never ending. Take, for example, if one of your values is connection, you're never going to complete connection, I don't think. You can keep living it. If one of your values is growth, you can keep growing because values create a life and goals create a milestone. And don't get me wrong, both of them matter. But if you only have goals, it can just feel like one relentlessly never-ending pursuit towards a finish line that's always seemingly moving. Think of it like this. Think about a bride. A bride has a wedding day and they're really excited. They're planning their wedding day. They're planning all of the things that come with it. They're imagining what it's going to be like. They're excited. All their friends are excited. Everyone's looking forward to this day. Everybody loves this couple. They're this couple there. It's about time they got married, all of that sort of thing. And then this wonderful wedding day comes along. They have this incredible, perfect wedding. And the next day, it's over. And there's this feeling of loss. There's this feeling of it's gone. There's this feeling of having the blues, the wedding blues, they call it. And that's because the goal was to get married. But why did you want to get married? Why did you want to get married? Because in many cases, it's quite obvious that marriage is the first step, right? This is the beginning of a marriage. What did you want from that? What did you value about the idea of getting married? Because that's ongoing. That's forever. That's something that you can continuously do. You can be together. You can share and build a relationship, build a family, build a home, build a life together. Somewhere within that is a whole set of values that you can always pursue, not just getting married. That's just part of it. That's just a goal. That's just a milestone within this journey of life that's surrounded by values. So, Ben, I hope this has been helpful. There's a few insights there that I think will be really helpful to you. I used a wedding analogy, but I'm sure you enjoyed your wedding if you got married. And if you don't, I'm sure you will. But here's some practical tools. Instead of writing another goal list, I'm going to ask you, Ben, to write down 5 moments from the last year where you felt truly alive. I'm not talking about successful. I'm not talking about the most impressive moments. I'm talking alive. You'll be able to pinpoint them. It will be a feeling that separates itself from every other time in the year. A time when you felt truly alive. And the reason I say it doesn't have to be successful or impressive is it could have just been a simple thing like I caught this fish. No one was around, but it was the best moment ever. Cool. That's really good. Write that down. Because that's one of those moments I'm talking about when you felt alive. Don't bring in other people's judgments. Don't bring in what other people might think or say. Write these things down like no one else is ever going to read them because they don't have to. It's all for you, Ben. And once you've got these 5 things, I want you to ask yourself, what was I doing? Who was I with? And the big question, what value was I living in that moment? You'll probably discover that your happiest moments weren't your biggest moments. They were your most meaningful ones. So this week I've got a gentle challenge for you, Ben. Don't ask yourself this week, what's the next thing I need to achieve? Ask yourself this instead. How do I want to experience life? Just notice how different those questions feel. One creates pressure, the other creates possibilities. Because I don't think most people are searching for more success. I think they're searching for a life that feels like it belongs to them. Because eventually there comes a point where another promotion or a new job won't fix it. Another purchase won't fix it. Another achievement won't fix it. And what fills that emptiness isn't always about doing more. Sometimes it's about becoming more of who you already are. And as always, at the end of these podcasts, I try to leave people with what I hope is a reflecting question or a reflective question. And today, I think I'm going to ask this. What have I been climbing towards? And is it actually a mountain that I want to climb? Couldn't help myself. Had to use a mountain analogy. Because sometimes the bravest thing you can do isn't to climb faster. It's to stop long enough to ask yourself whether you're climbing the right mountain in the first place. Ben, I really hope that was helpful. Please let me know. I'd love to hear from you again. And thank you everyone for listening. And I'll see you next week for another episode